Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I was halfway through a supplier meeting in Chicago when my phone buzzed on the table. Dana's name lit up the screen. I figured she was checking if my flight home was still on time or maybe asking what I wanted for dinner. I stepped out into the hallway, the echo of voices fading behind me, and answered. "Hey, I'm done with this marriage." Her voice was flat, almost rehearsed. "I already sold the house, so you'll need to find somewhere else to stay." I stopped walking. My free hand tightened around the pen I'd been holding, plastic digging into my palm. "What the hell are you talking about?" She didn't miss a beat. "It's simple. I'm moving on. Trevor and I needed the cash to start our new life. He's better than you in every way." There was a little lift in her voice at the end, like she was proud of herself. I stared at the carpet pattern under my shoes, trying to make the words make sense. Who the hell buys a house without both owners signing? You can't. She laughed. "You never pay attention to the details, do you?" The call cut through me like a punch, but I forced myself to keep my voice steady. "You think you can just sell out from under me?" "Already did," she said, smug and sharp. "Enjoy finding a motel." I could hear voices in the background on her end. Male laughter, faint music. My mind went straight to him. Trevor. I'd met him once, in passing. He had that smarmy used car salesman smile, the kind of guy who calls every man buddy while sizing up his watch. "You're out of your mind," I said. "I'll be home tomorrow." "Don't bother. I'll be gone." She hung up before I could get another word out. I stood there in the conference center hallway, people walking past with folders and coffee cups, while my life got ripped out from under me over a 2-minute call. The fluorescent lights above buzzed faintly. My grip on the pen finally snapped it in two. A guy from the meeting walked by, gave me a quick nod. I must have looked normal enough to him. Just another out-of-town rep taking a call. Inside, I was already running through the numbers, the paperwork, the mortgage terms. Dana thought she'd cut me out completely. She had no idea I'd made a quiet change months ago when we refinanced. She never read what she signed. But right there, I didn't let myself think ahead. Not yet. I shoved the broken pen into my pocket, took a breath, and walked back into the meeting like nothing had happened. Under the table, my hand wouldn't stop shaking. I sat there in that conference room, nodding at slides I didn't hear, pretending to jot down notes while my head was burning. Every time someone's voice faded, I'd hear Dana's instead. "I'm done with this marriage. Trevor and I needed the cash. Better than you in every way. 8 years. 8 damn years of splitting bills, working late nights, eating cheap takeout so we could make the payments on that 3-bedroom place. I'd painted every wall myself. I'd fixed the roof leak with my own 2 hands. And she thought she could just toss me out like an old couch left on the curb. I stared at the sales graph on the projector screen and barely registered the numbers. All I could see was her walking through the house, deciding what to pack for her new life. The signs had been there. I'd just shoved them into a corner because dealing with them meant admitting things were rotting. The girls' nights that stretched past 2 a.m., the way she'd smirk when I mentioned a slow month at work, tossing out little comments like, "Trevor says you should think about switching careers," or the digs about how her brother-in-law made real money at his job. Hell, she'd even stopped wearing her ring some weekends. Said it was too tight. I told myself it was nothing. My pen tapped against the notepad until the guy next to me gave me a quick side glance. I forced it still. Dana thought she'd outplayed me. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that when we refinanced last year, I'd insisted on putting the title under my name only. She was in a hurry that day, scrolling her phone while we signed the papers. She never read them, just signed and slid them back like it was a grocery receipt. The thought made my pulse slow a little. She'd built her big betrayal on a foundation that didn't belong to her. The shock started draining out of me, leaving something sharper in its place. This wasn't just about her running off with some smug loser. This was about her thinking I was too dumb, too passive to stop her. A voice from across the table cut through my thoughts. "Tom? You good with that projection for Q4? I looked up, realizing everyone was staring at me. "Yeah," I said, flipping my notepad closed. "Looks fine." The meeting rolled on. I didn't hear another word. All I was thinking about was how quickly I could get home and start lining things up. This wasn't going to be some screaming match in the driveway. No, this was going to be precise, controlled. The second the meeting wrapped, I walked straight out without the usual small talk. My phone buzzed twice in my pocket. Dana again. I didn't even look. She'd get nothing from me until I had my ducks in a row. In the elevator, I caught my reflection in the brushed metal doors. My jaw was tight, eyes hard. I looked more awake than I'd felt all morning. By the time I hit the lobby, the plan had already started to take shape. Step 1. Confirm the title was still clean. Step 2. Figure out who this buyer was, and shut that down before a dime changed hands. Step 3. Make damn sure Dana knew she'd backed the wrong horse. I stepped out into the Chicago air, my phone warm in my palm. The urge to call someone who knew the game, someone who could put this on paper, hit me like a jolt. Brad. I scrolled to his name and paused, thumb hovering. No, not yet. I'd call him from the hotel, where I could lay it all out without anyone overhearing. For the first time since she'd called, I felt steady. She thought she'd blindsided me. Now it was my turn. Back at the hotel, I tossed my bag onto the bed, shut the door, and went straight for my phone. Brad's name was near the top of my contacts. I hit call. He picked up on the second ring. Tell me you're calling to say you finally bought that boat. Not even close, I said. Dana tried to sell the house. There was a pause, then a short laugh. Sell what house? Our house, except it's not really our house anymore. I laid it out for him. Her call in the middle of my meeting, Trevor's name, the claim that she'd already sold it. He didn't interrupt until I finished. She tried to sell what's not hers, he said finally, his tone shifting from amused to sharp. That's fraud if she took a dime. I let that sink in for a second. Fraud. It had a nice ring to it. So what's my move? I asked. Simple, Brad said. We start by notifying whoever she thinks bought the place. You don't need to get into a back and forth with Dana. We go straight to the buyer and make it clear. The sale isn't legal. Title's in your name. They've been conned. Then I send her a formal letter outlining the mess she's in. And if she's already taken money, that's when it gets fun, I cut in. Exactly. His voice had that edge it always got when we were reeling in a big one on the lake. We can drag this into civil court, maybe even get the cops involved. But for now, we play it cool. Let her think she's ahead. I couldn't help it. My mouth twisted into a grin. It wasn't the idea of payback. It was the shift in weight. The second Brad said fraud, I knew I wasn't the one cornered anymore. You're enjoying this, he said. Not enjoying, I said. Just realizing I'm holding the rope now. Good. Then do yourself a favor, don't answer her calls. Don't reply to her texts. She'll start fishing, wanting to know what you're doing. Let her stew. The less she knows, the better. Fine by me. Also, he added, you're still in Chicago. That's perfect. Gives me time to pull the title records, draft the letters, and hit this buyer before Dana even smells trouble. I leaned back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. You think she even told this guy the title wasn't in her name? I'd bet my truck she didn't, which means when he finds out, he's gonna be pissed. At her. That's another crack in her little plan. The mental image of Trevor's face when the deal blew up was enough to make me chuckle. Guess I'll let you get to work. Do that, Brad said. And remember, radio silence. If she sends you 1,000 messages, I want you to ignore all 1,000. Copy that. Oh, and one more thing, he said. Don't you dare feel bad. She's the one who decided to play dirty. You're just making sure she trips over her own mess. I ended the call feeling lighter than I had all day. My phone buzzed almost instantly. Dana. I flipped it over without looking. Another buzz, then another. The screen lit up with her name, call after call. I didn't touch it. Instead, I opened my laptop, pulled up my email, and sent Brad everything he might need. Copies of the refinance papers, the title, our mortgage info. Each attachment felt like adding another bullet to the chamber. By the time I closed the lid, Dana had left 6 voicemails. I deleted them without listening. She thought she was playing chess. She hadn't realized I'd just put her king in check before she even sat down at the board. When I pulled into the driveway, the place looked exactly the same, but it didn't feel the same. The siding, the porch, the windows, all of it was mine now, not ours. mine. Inside, her perfume still hung in the air. Shoes by the door, coffee mug in the sink, half her closet still full upstairs. It was like she'd hit pause on her life here, thinking she could just waltz back in whenever she wanted. She didn't knock. Just stormed in a little after 6, her heels clicking hard against the wood floor. In her hand was Brad's letter, folded in half, her grip white-knuckled. "You can't block the sale," she snapped, shoving the paper toward me like it was some kind of court order. "It's half mine." I didn't even flinch. I reached over to the coffee table, picked up the title I'd left there and held it out between us. My name. Just my name. "You signed this," I said, tapping the page with my finger. Didn't even read it, like always. Her face tightened, that smug smirk flickering out like a light. "That doesn't mean anything. I can still—" "It means everything," I cut in. "You don't own a square inch of this place. You can't sell what isn't yours, Dana." Her voice jumped an octave. "You think you're so damn clever, don't you? Well, I'll take you for everything in the divorce. You won't have a cent left when I'm done." "Go ahead and try," I said, leaning back against the arm of the couch. "But here's the thing. You made this mess, not me." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think Trevor's just going to walk away? He's got money tied up in this. Then maybe you should have told Trevor the truth before you took his money." That one hit. Her jaw clenched, eyes narrowing. "You're trying to ruin me." I shook my head slowly. "No, Dana. You did that yourself. All I'm doing is making sure you don't drag me down with you." She took a step closer, waving the letter again. "This isn't over. It's over the second you walk out that door," I said. "And if you think screaming in my living room is going to scare me, you've forgotten who you married." Her eyes darted toward the staircase. "I'm getting my things." "Take what's yours," I said, moving toward the doorway to the hall. "And don't leave a single box behind." For a moment, she just stood there, breathing fast, like she wanted to spit out something cruel, but couldn't land on the words. Then she turned on her heel and stomped up the stairs. I listened to her yank drawers open, hangers sliding along the closet rod. Every thud of a suitcase hitting the floor felt like another nail in the coffin. When she came back down, dragging 2 overstuffed bags, I opened the door without a word. She stopped in the threshold, turning to glare at me. "You're going to regret this," she said, low and sharp. I met her eyes. "No, Dana, I regret wasting 8 years thinking you'd never pull something like this." She jerked the bags past me and out onto the porch. The door swung shut behind her, the latch clicking in a way that sounded final. I stood there a few seconds, letting the quiet settle in. Her car door slammed, engine revved, tires crunched down the driveway. The house was still full of her stuff, but without her voice filling the rooms, it already felt different. Mine. And this time, she wasn't coming back. The next afternoon, I was at the dining table going through a stack of mail when the front door opened without a knock. Dana strolled in like she owned the place. Trevor right behind her. She had that fake, overconfident smile plastered on her face. "Thought I'd come by so you two could meet properly," she said, gesturing toward him like she was introducing me to some VIP. Trevor stepped forward, hand outstretched. "Hey, man, I guess we're gonna be neighbors. Well, roommates for a bit, I hear." I didn't move. "You two aren't staying here," I said flatly. "This is my house." His hand hung in the air for a second before he let it drop. The smirk he'd been wearing wavered. Dana said—" "I know exactly what Dana said," I cut in. "And I'm telling you, the sale you think happened, it's void, never legal to begin with." Dana rolled her eyes. "Don't start this again." "Not starting anything. Just letting your friend here know he might want to double-check whether you were honest about the money." Trevor's brow furrowed. "What money?" I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms. "The money you gave her for a house she doesn't own. Title's in my name only, which means if you handed her a cent, you've got a bigger problem than moving in." His head snapped toward Dana. "Wait, hold on. You told me—" "I told you we could close the deal," she said quickly, her tone sharper now. "It's just a hiccup. He's making it into something it's not." I let a thin smile creep in. "It's fraud, Dana. Call it a hiccup if you want, but if Brad pushes this, the cops will call it something else. Her face drained of color. You wouldn't... I don't have to do anything, I said. You already did it to yourself. Trevor's voice dropped, tight with suspicion. You took my money knowing you didn't own this place? She shot him a glare. Stop overreacting. He stepped back from her like she'd just handed him a live wire. Overreacting? Do you know how fast this could get ugly for me? Dana's tone shifted to pleading. Trevor, baby, it's fine. We'll work it out. No, I said, standing. You'll work it out somewhere else. Not here. Trevor glanced at me, then back at her. You didn't tell me any of this. She reached for his arm, but he pulled it away. You're unbelievable, he muttered, heading for the door. Trevor, she called after him, but he didn't stop. The door swung shut behind him, leaving her standing in the middle of the room, fists clenched. I picked up my coffee mug, took a slow sip, and met her eyes. Guess he's not as loyal as you thought. You think you've won, she said through gritted teeth. There's nothing to win, Dana. You lost the second you lied. Her chest rose and fell like she was about to launch into a tirade, but instead she spun toward the door. This isn't over. I watched her leave, the click of her heels fading down the walkway until there was nothing but silence again. I sat back down at the table, slid the unopened bills aside, and stared at the door. She'd walked in here trying to parade her new life in front of me. Instead, she'd just shown me how fast it was already falling apart, and something told me this was only the beginning. She came back less than an hour later. No Trevor this time. Her hair was windblown, eyes red like she'd been pacing in her car or crying, probably both. She stepped into the kitchen and dropped her purse on the counter with a dull thud. We've been married 8 years, she said, her voice thinner now, the edge gone. You can't just throw me out. I stayed seated at the dining table. I'm not throwing you out, I said. You did that yourself when you called me from Chicago and told me you were done. Her mouth opened, then closed. I didn't mean... Yeah, you did, I cut in. And I'm just following through on what you started. I reached to the side, grabbed the manila envelope Brad had couriered over, and slid it across the table toward her. Brad's been busy, divorce papers. Everything's already filled in. She stared at the envelope like it might bite her. You already... Sign my parts, I said. All that's left is yours. Her hand hovered over the flap but didn't touch it. Her voice wavered. You're really just... ending it? Like that? You ended it, I said. I'm making it official. Tears welled up, clinging to her lashes before spilling down. You don't understand. Trevor, he's not... Things aren't... She stopped, pressing her lips together like she'd almost admitted too much. I leaned back, folding my arms. Not my problem anymore. She blinked at me, her expression cracking. I don't have anywhere else to go. You had somewhere. You just chose to burn it down. The words hit her like a slap. She flinched, then reached for the envelope, pulling the papers halfway out. Her eyes scanned the top page and her hands started to tremble. You're keeping the house? Yes. That's not fair. What's not fair is you trying to sell it out from under me. She pushed the papers back toward me. I need time. No, Dana. You've had plenty of time to think about what you wanted. You made your choice when you packed Trevor into my life. All I'm doing is clearing the wreckage. Her chin dropped, shoulders shaking. You don't have to be so cold about it. I let the silence hang for a beat before answering. You didn't care how cold it sounded when you told me over the phone that I'd need to find somewhere else to stay. She sniffed hard, dragging a sleeve across her face. What am I supposed to do? Figure it out, I said, like I had to in Chicago, standing in a hallway while you tried to blow up everything we built. She didn't say anything after that. Just sat there, staring at the envelope, tears dripping onto the manila surface. Finally, I stood, picked up the papers, and set them in front of her again. You sign, you get to leave without a bigger mess. You don't sign, Brad starts making calls. Her eyes flicked up to mine, searching for some crack in my resolve. She didn't find one. When I walked out of the room, she was still sitting there, motionless, staring down at her own name on the dotted line. 2 days later, Jenna pulled into the driveway with a stack of flattened boxes in the back of her SUV. She came through the door with a grin. "Ready to clean house?" "More than ready," I said, handing her a roll of packing tape. We started upstairs, yanking hangers from the closet and folding Dana's clothes into boxes. The air smelled like her perfume at first, but with every load sealed shut, it faded a little more. Jenna taped a box closed and looked over at me. "She's still calling you?" "Every day," I said, dropping a pair of high heels into another box. "But I'm done answering," Jenna smirked. "Good. She's probably trying to figure out how to spin this so you look like the bad guy." "Let her," I said. "Doesn't change the facts." By the time we moved to the kitchen, the upstairs felt lighter, like a window had been opened. We wrapped dishes in newspaper, packed every mug, every spatula, every piece of junk mail she'd left piled on the counter. Halfway through boxing up the pantry, my phone buzzed. Brad's name lit up the screen. I put him on speaker. "Got some news," he said. "The buyer's officially out. He's demanding Dana repay him in full." Jenna raised her eyebrows. I just grinned. "Her mess, not mine." "Exactly," Brad said. And for the record, he was not happy when he found out she never had the right to sell. Used a few choice words I won't repeat. Good to hear. "One more thing. She's been calling my office too." "I'm not picking up," Jenna laughed. "Guess she's running out of people willing to listen." "Let her stew," I said. We ended the call, and Jenna slid another box across the floor toward me. "You keeping anything?" "Only what I bought. Everything else goes." By mid-afternoon, the dining room was stacked waist-high with boxes. The echo in the house was sharper now. No clutter to absorb the sound. Jenna wiped her hands on her jeans and looked around. "Feels different already." "Better?" I said. We loaded the SUV with as many boxes as it could carry. She offered to drop them at a storage unit, but I told her Dana could arrange that herself. We set the rest neatly by the front door, labeled and ready to be gone. When Jenna left, I stood in the living room and just looked around. No more random throw pillows I never liked. No scented candles that gave me headaches. The coffee table was clear for the first time in years. The phone buzzed again. Dana. I let it ring out. She could keep calling all she wanted. The only thing she'd hear from me was silence and the sound of her stuff rolling out the door. A week later, Jenna showed up with cartons of Chinese takeout, and Mark followed behind her carrying a six-pack. I'd cleared the coffee table for the first time in years, and the three of us sat cross-legged on the floor, cartons open, beer bottles sweating onto old coasters. Mark cracked one open and raised it. To fresh starts. Jenna smirked and clinked her bottle against his, and to never having to hear the name Trevor again. I lifted mine. I'll drink to that. We dug in, swapping stories between bites of lo mein and fried rice. Mark had never met Dana in person, but had heard plenty from me. "So let me get this straight," he said, pointing his chopsticks at me. "She really thought she could sell a house she didn't own, run off with some guy, and you just—" "What? Hand her the keys?" "Pretty much," I said, except I didn't. Jenna laughed, almost choking on her egg roll. Her face when you pulled out that title, God, I wish I'd been here. We laughed until the kind of silence settled in where you could actually hear yourself think. I looked around at the living room. No piles of her magazines, no random furniture I never liked, no smell of the floral candles that gave me headaches. The space felt bigger somehow, even though nothing had changed except the absence of her. Mark leaned back against the couch. "You're going to redo this place, right? Make it yours?" "Already started," I said. "New paint's next. Then maybe swap out that ugly chandelier she insisted on." Before he could answer, my phone buzzed on the armrest. Brad's name. I grabbed it and hit speaker. "She signed," he said. Jenna's eyebrows shot up. "No fight?" "Not a word," Brad said. "Got the papers this morning. Courier dropped them off signed and dated. It's official." Mark grinned. "Guess Trevor's not paying her legal fees." I chuckled. "Guess not." Brad's tone softened. "Seriously, man, you handled this exactly right. Clean break, no loose ends. She can't touch you now." Appreciate it, Brad, I said. Drinks on me next time we hit the lake. We hung up and Jenna leaned over to bump my shoulder. How's it feel? I took a sip of beer, letting the question hang for a second. Like the volume's been turned down on my whole life. She smiled. That's the sound of peace, my friend. We stayed up later than I planned, watching some terrible action movie on cable and picking at the leftovers until the cartons were empty. Eventually, they headed out. Jenna with a bag of extra fortune cookies, Mark promising to come back with paint samples. When the door closed behind them, the house was quiet again, but not the kind of quiet that feels heavy. It was clean, open, like the air moved better without all that tension hanging around. I locked up, turned off the lights, and headed upstairs. For the first time in years, I didn't lie in bed staring at the ceiling, waiting for the next argument or the next dig about money. I didn't wonder where she was or who she was with. I just closed my eyes, and the quiet stayed quiet, and I slept. A month later, I barely recognized the place. The beige walls Dana insisted on were gone, replaced with deep gray in the living room and a clean white upstairs. The furniture was mine now, simple, solid, comfortable. No more glass coffee table that looked like it belonged in a hotel lobby. No more chairs that were decorative but impossible to sit in. Even the smell was different. Fresh paint, new wood from the bookshelves I'd built in the corner. Brad stopped by to drop off some final paperwork and stood in the middle of the living room looking around. "Man," he said, grinning, "you should throw a divorce party. This place is unrecognizable." I shook my head. "Last thing I want right now is a house full of people. I'm good with quiet." He laughed. "Fair enough. Just make sure you use the space for yourself now. No more living in someone else's idea of home." After he left, I sat on the couch with a cup of coffee, looking at the bare walls where her art used to hang. It was strange how fast her presence had been erased, like she'd never been here at all. I thought about the way she'd looked that day in Chicago, or rather sounded. So certain she'd pulled off some grand checkmate, certain she could take the house, the life we'd built, and leave me scrambling. But the truth was, her arrogance had been the thing that blew it all up in her face. If she'd read those refinance papers, maybe she could have pulled it off. Instead, she'd handed me the one thing I needed to stand my ground, and I'd used it. I wasn't angry anymore, not even resentful. The calls had stopped weeks ago, the messages dried up. I'd blocked her on everything anyway, but even if I hadn't, there was nothing left for her to say. I set my mug down, leaned back, and let the quiet fill the room. No drama humming in the background. No knots in my stomach waiting for the next fight. The house was mine, the air was clear, and for the first time in a long time, my life felt like it actually belonged to me. I wasn't looking backward. Whatever came next, good, bad, or somewhere in between, I was ready for it.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.